Welcome to the deep dive. If you've ever wondered how companies truly balance doing good with making money, or maybe why some ads just don't really land anymore, then this deep dive is definitely for you. Today, we're plunging into that fascinating and sometimes, let's be honest, contentious corporate struggle between social responsibility and marketing.
Exactly. And we're drawing our insights today from CEO World magazine, specifically a really sharp article by Fotis Pantopoulos. Our mission here for this deep dive is basically to pull out the critical nuggets of knowledge about this pretty complex relationship. We want to help you understand not just what companies are doing, but crucially, why it matters to you, both as consumers and, well, as citizens.
Okay, so let's start by maybe defining our two key players here, because their interaction is really at the heart of this whole discussion. First up, corporate social responsibility, CSR. The article frames this as a business's commitment to contribute positively to society through its operations, its products, its services. It's often seen as, corporate philanthropy, but what's really interesting is that it can also be, maybe surprisingly, controversial when it comes to shaping a company's public image.
Mm-hmm. And then, of course, you have marketing. This is essentially the whole process, isn't it? Introducing a product or service to potential customers. It's about helping businesses understand what customers actually need and then, creating value for them. It covers so much ground: traditional advertising, PR, direct mail, sales, and obviously social media campaigns. It's fundamentally about creating awareness, interest, desire. It's much, much broader than just that ad you flick past. And what's really compelling here, I think, is how these two sort of distinct ideas intersect and sometimes, well, they collide head on.
That's a really crucial point, because what the article highlights is this huge shift in how businesses communicate with the public. It's not just a small tweak. It's like a fundamental transformation driven by things like increased societal education, a total revolution in how information spreads, and of course, new economic conditions. This isn't just about new tech, it's whole new consumer mindset.
Precisely. And these changes, they've had really profound consequences for traditional advertising. The article notes this shift from what maybe used to be seen as innocent prompting to what it calls persuasion techniques that over time started raising some serious questions. We're talking about, everything from ethical violations and unfair promotion right up to non-existent claims. And even what Pantopoulos calls informal extortionate value pressures, which is basically creating these subtle, almost manipulative pressures on consumers. The public, frankly, is now just more educated and more television mature. That's a great phrase. They're not easily swayed by the old messages, and they really don't tolerate feeling like their intelligence is being underestimated. So what happens, those big, expensive, flashy ad campaigns often just fail. They don't deliver the expected results. And if you connect this to the bigger picture, the rapid, widespread spread of information, well, it's mostly good, obviously, but it also means negative reports, whether they're true or not, can seriously damage a company's image because they get lodged, dangerously so, in the public consciousness. This whole environment kind of cultivates almost a competitive mindset in how the public views businesses. Consumers aren't just passive buyers anymore. They're actively scrutinizing, daring companies to prove they care about more than just the bottom line.
Right. So with traditional advertising kind of struggling against this new wave of consumer skepticism, how are companies trying to redefine their image and build back that trust? The article pointed to really interesting, distinct approaches to corporate social responsibility.
Yeah, the first one is what the article calls the bona fide approach. This is where businesses genuinely become aware of this climate of public distrust. And let's face it, especially in tough economic times, the public often points fingers at businesses, accusing them of profiteering. So in response, these companies actually reflect. They start redefining their social role, thinking beyond just profit making, aiming to be genuine contributors. Then there's the second way, the forced conversion and adoption of practices. This sounds a bit more strategic, perhaps. This type of CSR aims to build a new corporate profile, one that explicitly emphasizes the human consumer customer. The focus shifts to improving quality of life, showing the company's broader contribution rather than just relentlessly pushing the product in the sale. And this distinction, it raises a really important question for you, the listener. Is CSR something born out of genuine ethos, a real belief, or is it more a strategic necessity in today's world?
That is a powerful distinction. But what Pantopoulos seems to suggest is that despite these two different drivers, maybe the logical starting point, the common ground for both approaches is this idea: a company is inherently a social partner. It operates within a specific environment, right? whether that's local, national, or even international?
Exactly. The company both influences social development and is inevitably affected by it. So this implies a business shouldn't only be interested in sales figures. It also needs to care about the living conditions of the community it operates in and the real effects its attitude has on that community. Now, consumers will always look at their wallets, their financial capacity when buying, of course. But increasingly, they'll prefer those businesses that, with their attitude, convince that they are aware of the problems by treating them as common. Industrially. It's true, maybe not all societies have the same level of consumer consciousness to organize big boycotts, perhaps. But what seems undeniably certain is that having a human-centric corporate profile, that's what's really going to distinguish businesses in today's super competitive market.
Okay, so it's clear these two things, CSR and marketing, are deeply tangled up. But when we talk about marketing costs, we usually think advertising budgets, campaigns, that sort of thing. How do these deeper social responsibilities fit into a company's financial planning? The article explains that marketing costs aren't just for ad campaigns. They actually include the cost of social responsibility too, because the two are so closely related. It suggests companies investing more in their public image, well, they naturally have to spend more on marketing overall.
Right. Think of marketing maybe as a circular process. It starts with creating brand awareness, getting your name out there, and ideally it ends up creating lasting brand loyalty. You can break this journey down broadly into 3 stages. First, creating awareness, then fostering interest, and finally building real engagement. New businesses especially often rely heavily on things like word of mouth and social media, Facebook, Instagram, you name it, to build that initial awareness and interact directly with their target audience. It's much more immediate now.
Which brings us to a really direct and I think important question the article itself poses. Do you actually need to implement a CSR strategy if you already have a successful marketing strategy? Like if the sales are good, do you need the extra layer?
Yeah, it's a fair question. And the nuanced answer Pentopoulos offers is that, look, a successful marketing strategy can definitely generate revenue without a big CSR push. That's possible. However, for a long-term vision, implementing robust CSR strategies is what really helps maintain that crucial brand image and creates a strong, sustainable business model for the future. What's really compelling here, I think, is the emphasis on long-term sustainability over just chasing short-term gains. It positions CSR not as some kind of, temporary gimmick or PR stunt, but as a fundamental enhancer of competitive advantage. And it plugs right into this growing trend towards overall corporate sustainability that we see everywhere.
That makes a lot of sense. So, okay, if companies want to achieve both genuine CSR and successful marketing, how do they actually pull it off? What's the core path here?
The article's core answer is actually remarkably straightforward. You have to be ethical. That's the foundation. And what does that mean? Well, it means companies taking full responsibility for the impact, the real impact of their products, their services, their operations on society, on the environment, on their suppliers, customers, employees, all stakeholders. It means being transparent with customers, informing them about both the benefits and the potential risks or downsides of what they're buying. And importantly, it also means that successful marketing practices generate the funds needed for effective CSR investments. They kind of fuel each other in a virtuous cycle, ideally.
But here's maybe the million-dollar question, or perhaps the multi-million-dollar question for some companies. If CSR is so vital for long-term success, what's the actual investment required? Because undertaking these programs, it genuinely costs money, right? The article notes it often requires a company to be, and I quote, deprived of part of its profits to truly upgrade societal living conditions. It's not free.
No, definitely not free. And beyond the direct financial outlay, the cash, it also demands, competent departments or maybe special consultants, people who can actually study market needs and trends properly to make sure these CSR actions are targeted and effective, not just, wasted effort. If we connect this back to the bigger picture, CSR is really an advanced form of interactive communication. It's a dialogue between businesses and their environment. It moves beyond simple, sometimes incomplete, maybe one-way verbal communication. It creates a new and potentially much more effective basis for that crucial business-public relationship. And that resonates particularly strongly, the article suggests, in an era of social crisis and deconstruction of the social fabric. When trust is low, these actions speak louder.
So wow, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, haven't we? We've gone from the changing landscape of consumer trust and why old-school advertising is faltering, all the way to the dual nature of CSR genuine versus strategic, and the absolutely critical role of ethics in balancing social responsibility with marketing success. It really seems clear that businesses are increasingly being seen as, and needing to act as, true social partners.
Absolutely. And this leaves us, and you, the listener, with a maybe provocative thought to chew on. Given this huge shift in consumer expectations and the instantaneous spread of information we talked about, how might the very definition of successful marketing continue to evolve? Could it become increasingly dependent on a company's genuine social and ethical commitment, perhaps even more so than just its raw sales figures?
Something definitely worth thinking about. We hope this deep dive helps you feel well-informed and perhaps just a little more critical when you see those messages companies put out every day. Thanks for joining us.